අරවානිවන් අව පුර තොර අකුළු ලමින් සුරකින බැවින් සිරිදලඳා සමිඳු පෙමින් පරසතු කුසුම් උඩුගුවනි විසුරුවමින් පෙරහැර පවත්වති දෙවියෝ ඔබේ නමින්.
ඔබ සැමට උතුම් දළදා සමිඳු සරණයි. ඓතිහාසික කන්දුරට ඇසල පෙරහැර මහා මංගල්‍යයේ පළමු රන්දෝලි පෙරහර අද දිනේ වීදි සංචාරය කිරීම සඳහා සියලු කටයුතු සූදානම්. මේ විශේෂ වූ මහා සංස්කෘතික මංගල්‍යයේ සිරි විසිතුර අපි ඔබට සජීවීව සමීප කරනවා. මේ රූපකාව්‍ය ඔබට අත්විඳින්න පුළුවන් ඩයලොග් නාලිකා අංක 48, පියොටවි නාලිකා අංක 20 සහ 310 ඔස්සේ වගේම ෆ්‍රීසෙට් නාලිකා අංක 2 එසේම සයිබර් ගගනත ඔස්සේ ශ්‍රී දළදා මාලිගාවේ Facebook, YouTube නාලිකා ඔස්සේ ඔබට මේ පෙරහැරේ සිරිවිසුතුර සජීව විඳ ගැනීමට පුළුවන්. ඒ නිසාවෙන් නිවසේ රැඳී සිටින ඔබට අපි තාමත් ගෞරවයෙන් ආරාධනා කරනවා එන්න මේ ඓතිහාසික කන්දුරට ඇසල පෙරහැර මහා මංගල්‍යයේ පළමු රන්දෝලි පෙරහැරේ සිරිවිසුතුර சஜீவீව வித ගැන්මට. கோஷி
நன்றி ரோஹன. கண்டி மாநகரில் சூழ அனைவரையும் வருக வருக என வரவேற்பதுடன் இக்காட்சிகளை நேரடியாக காண முடியாதவர்கள் டயலாக் தொலைக்காட்சி 48, பியோ டிவி 20310, ஃப்ரீசெட் 2 மற்றும் தலதா மாளிகையினுடைய யூடியூப், ஃபேஸ்புக் பக்கங்களினூடாக கண்டுகளிக்க முடியும். மங்களம் கொண்ட இந்த வேளையில் உங்கள் அனைவரையும் வருக வருக என வரவேற்பதுடன் மகிழ்ச்சி அடைகின்றோம். இது கண்டி அசல பெரஹெரா 2024. அனைவரும் வருக, இறைகருள் பெருக. திஷரி.
Thank you, Goshi. We have already witnessed 5 Kumbal processions, and today it becomes even more glamorous with the first Randoli procession of Kandy Esala Perahera 2024. This invitation goes to you all to come and witness this glamorous occasion. But if you're at home, you can still be watching this grand occasion by using the following channels: PO TV number 310 and channel number 20, Dialogue TV channel number 48 and Freezat channel number 2. And also, you can watch the live broadcast of Kandy Esala Perahera 2024 via the social media platforms of Sri Dalada Maligawa. Stay tuned.
Dalada Samindu Pihitai.
We are delighted to welcome you to the special live broadcast of the first Randoli Perahera of the Kandy Esala Perahera 2024, brought to you by the Media and Special Projects Bureau of the Sri Dalada Maligawa Kandy.
You are now seeing the Perahera officials obtaining the permissions and blessings of the Diyavadana Nilame, the lay custodian of the sacred tooth relic, before commencing their street perambulations.
This is the handing over of keys by the Diyavadana Nilame to the officiating bhikkhus. Now the Diyavadana Nilame will be making his way from the upper level, the Ihalamalaya, to the lower level chamber of the Vadasitina Maligaya, and he is seen ceremoniously and reverentially carrying the Perahera casket under the protection of the custodian venerating prelate of the Askiriya Mahaviharaya, Venerable Urulavatte Thammarakita Theru, towards the ceremonial tusker under much veneration, amidst the offering of light, sounds, scents and flowers, all the way from the upper chamber until it is placed on the awaiting tusker.
We are now seeing the Perahera casket, which contains 32 relics of Lord Buddha being placed within the Ranhilige that is mounted on the lavishly costumed tusker who will uplift the majesty of this great procession. Nilesh, why don't you enlighten us on who this tusker who is lucky with this honorable burden today?
On this first Randoli Perahera, the sacred role of carrying the Perahera relic casket will be delegated to the lead tusker of the Sri Dalada Maligawa, Indiraja.
We can see that the officials are offering flowers and floral garlands to the Perahera casket mounted on the majestic tusker Indiraja.
This is the devout moment when the royal tusker shall step majestically down from the Mahavaharkada, the main entrance, onto the Sandagala, the moonstone, amidst the tune of traditional Nagasingham music in preparation to parade the streets of the Kandian city. Today, as mentioned, the royal tusker will be Indiraja of the Sri Dalada Maligawa stables.
Now we are seeing an aerial view of the premises of Sri Dalada Maligawa, all alight for the first Randoli procession.
On this year 2024, we will be witnessing the 1714th Perahera that had begun during the reign of King Kirti Sri Meghavarna, who pledged that the relics must be carried around the city once a year. And this tradition still continues, followed by the succession of many ruling kings, prime ministers and presidents of our country.
And the interesting fact is that this cultural festival has been continued for 1714 years continuously without no interruptions.
Walking up front with the sound of thundering whips piercing through the skies are the whip crackers, announcing that the procession has commenced, and these whip masters are tasked with clearing the way for the sacred relic casket and the king.
When looking back at the history, in the ancient times, it was the ruling king who would parade the streets in the Perahera. But now it's the Diyavadana Nilame, the lay custodian of the sacred tooth relic of Lord Buddha, who will resemble the king in the modern day Perahera.
The Perahera is believed to be held in prayer for timely rainfall, and the elements of the Perahera is structured in such of a symbolic way. In fact, it paints the imagery of a rainfall where rain would never be showered without the sound of thunder. And these whip wielders are the symbolic imagery to depict the sound of lightning and thunder to pay homage to the rain gods, requesting to bless our crops and cultivations with rain.
The whip master's duty is handed down from generation to generation of their clans, and today this troop is represented by Mr. Upali Jayaratna.
According to traditions, a Perahera which does not have this pedigree are not even being worth called such. In single file, we see the whip masters carefully manipulating their whip, that is nearly 7 feet in length and is made fully out of natural materials known as Niyaga and Navapatta, which indicates how traditions have been preserved and the authentic methods have not changed throughout the parading history of 1714 years.
Indeed, we can see that the crowd lining the streets are offering coins in homage to this cultural grandeur, and we can see that the coins are being collected to clear the way for the arrival of the sacred casket. This throwing of coins is a beautiful tradition that highlights the basis of giving, offering and sharing among the people of our land. Sri Lankans are among the top in the world in the giving index. That is indeed an outcome of the social influence of Lord Buddha's teaching.
It's mesmerizing to see how the city of Kandy is illuminated with lights to welcome the Randoli Perahera segments. So for the past few days we have been noticing the charm episodes of the Kumbal Perahera, which depicts the lifestyle of a Kumbala or a salesman walking in the narrow streets in a shorter route. But the Randoli Perahera in contrast is quite different to the Kumbal Perahera, isn't it, Chamuda?
Indeed, it's becoming more colorful and the components are getting an additional glamour when it comes to the Randoli processions. That's why we specially invite you to come and visit the streets and absorb this grandeur with your eyes.
Totally. And now we see the fire acrobats walking up front in the Perahera, led by Mr. E.D. Tilakaratna of the Ragama Walpola Aesthetic Academy.
Rain does not come with thunder alone. Just as lightning flashes across the skies, the procession too has its flashes of light dancing across the faces of the people lining the streets to watch. These are the fire dancers who are offering fire, inviting the rain gods to water our lands with rain. The fireball dance is performed in 3 levels that are known as Bin Thalaya, the lower level, Mada Thalaya, the mid level, and Ahas Thalaya, the sky level. That is definitely the highlighted episode of the fireball dance that is performed standing on each other in great discipline and balance. Now we are seeing the aerial pictures of the citadel of Kandy, all alight, with thousands lining the streets for this grand procession today. The sun, moon, earth, universe, solar month, night and day are all cyclic, and the fireball dance highlight these universal cycles while depicting how they burn and cool us in our life cycles. The dancers also paint fiery cycles of samsara that is flooded with desire, ignorance and anger that are highlighted by the chakras. We can see very young performers performing, giving us the confidence that these cultural festivities will last for many more years to come.
This evening, the first Randoli Perahera commenced at the auspicious time of 6:45, heading southwest, and the Perahera shall proceed down the Dalada Vidya, D.S. Senanayaka Vidya, Temple Street, Deva Vidya, Colombo Vidya, Kotogodella Vidya, Haras Vidya, D.S. Senanayaka Vidya, and conclude ascending the Raja Vidya.
Following the fireball dancers, now we see the Buddhist flag bearers headed by a national flag bearer. The sight of these Buddhist flags create a sense of tranquility among the spectators, reminding us the fact that this is a procession in celebration, devotion, and an offering to the great Lord Buddha.
The Buddhist flag is a symbol of faith and peace. The 6 colors of the flag represent the colors of the aura that emanated from the body of Lord Buddha when he attained enlightenment under the sacred Bodhi tree. The horizontal strips represent the races of the world living in harmony, while the vertical strips represent eternal world peace.
The colors displayed in the Buddhist flag represent the perfection of Buddhahood and the Dhamma, his preachings. The symbolic identities of these colors are illustrated as blue for universal compassion, yellow for the middle path that Lord Buddha has taken, red for the blessings, white for purity and liberation, and orange for the unshakable wisdom.
and these flag bearers are represented by the open prison camp of Pallekele.
This ceremonious procession is performed in adulation of the Lord Buddha and as well as his paramita, or the act of kindness of the future Buddha.
The unique collection of flags in front of us are known as the provincial flags. These include the uniquely designed flags of the 12 states and 9 counties that were under the rule of the ancient Kandian kingdom.
If we talk about the tradition, it was the tradition that the respective chieftain of the state, known as the Raterala, would participate in the Perahera with their respective flag that is unique to their state to showcase their loyalty towards the king.
While that traditional display reminds us of the glory and sovereignty of the ancient Senkadagala kingdom, it also represents the symbol of governance in compliance to the 10 great leadership qualities preached by Lord Buddha, known as the Dasaraja Dharma.
These flags, out of which some were shown individually, could be identified as the sun and moon flag of the Satara Koralaya, lion flag of the Sat Koralaya, white flag of Matale, silk flag of Sabaragamuwa, Berunda Pakshiya flag of Tun Koralaya, peacock flag of Uwa Velassa, and the lotus flag of Uda Palata.
The same flags we saw before are being displayed in metallic form, and these are the brass flag bearers who remind us about the proud heritage of the Kandian era. And this troop of brass flags have been represented by Mr. Ajit Mahendra.
These brass flags are carved with great precision and attention to minute details, which certainly portrays the great artistry that takes a lot of time, patience and energy.
In fact, these artists who belong to the Navandanna clan or Gurukulaya were the same ancestors who used to make beautiful gold, silver and brass ornaments with detailed engravings embedded with precious gems for the king, and as offerings to the sacred tooth relic and for the procession.
The army of officials who are carrying these standards are dressed in a white sarong and a turban with a bare upper body, interestingly symbolizing the energetic lifestyle of our people back then.
Walking in great discipline in their calm and quiet nature are the army of sword bearers who bear protection to the Perahera relic casket, and this team is represented by the Angampura squad of the Sri Lanka Air Force.
The symbolic idea of these sword bearers is the historic protection that was provided with utmost might to the sacred tooth relic. For those of you who know about the history of the sacred tooth relic, you would be patriotically proud of our history and the heroic personalities.
We see the much awaited moment of the very first elephant of the Perahera. Here we see the tusker Pulatisi Raja of the Sri Dalada Maligawa stables carrying the Peramunerala. Chamud, if you could elaborate about the Peramunerala.
Indeed, it is the norm of the Perahera that the Peramunerala, or the front runner of the procession, is the first person on elephant back, and neither officials nor elephants are permitted to parade before Peramunerala.
Pulatisi Raja is in fact the latest addition to the Sri Dalada Maligawa stables, as he was gifted to the Sri Dalada Maligawa in the year 2017 from Burma during the presidency of the past president, Mr. Maithripala Sirisena. This is the arrival of the first Hevisi troupe representing the official musical ensemble, who are permanently seconded to the service of the Sri Dalada Maligawa. They perform in dignified presence in front of the procession. As a tradition, they practice with majestic skill. And in fact, no Panchature Vadana or traditional orchestra of Sinhalese music that produce sounds using other drums or musical instruments are permitted before the Hevisi, as per the rule of the Kandy and Perahera tradition.
Rich with its own genres of traditional music, and Hevisi is dignified as the authentic sound of Sri Lanka. The history of Hevisi takes back to the time when the sapling of the Jayashrima Bodhi tree was brought down to Sri Lanka by Sanghamitta Thereni. And this evidence marks the fact that Hevisi is the oldest traditional orchestra and Buddhist sound offering in the Sri Lankan heritage.
Riding on the second tusker is the Gajanayaka Nilame, the royal official in charge of the king's troop of elephants, a position that is delegated by the king himself. And this evening the Gajanayaka Nilame, who holds a golden anchor, shall walk on the mount of the tusker Sindhu, belonging to the most venerable Maha Natha Devale of the Malvatta monastic order, Venerable Tibbatuwave Sri Siddhartha Sumangala Devale.
Following the Gajanayaka Nilame, now we see the Kothalapada dancers.
And this troupe of Kothalapada dancers are being trained and led by Mr. Nalin Jayasekara of the Sri Dalada Maligawa School of Dance.
Kothalapada is one of the most gentle dance performances of the upcountry tradition of dance, which is traditionally a dance of purity. The dancers carry a pot of saffron water on one hand and an arecanut flower on the other hand, and this dance symbolizes purifying the root in which the sacred tooth relic casket shall be carried.
The Kothalapada is in fact a ritualistic dance that is performed in healing rituals or Shanti Karma across upcountry, low country and Sabaragamu traditions. And here we are seeing the upcountry version of the Kothalapada, which originates from the Kohumba Kankariya healing ritual, as one of the 4 Happadaya or 7 dance episodes that comprise of the Bulakpadaya, Kothalapadaya, Malpadaya, Salupadaya, Polpadaya, Yahan Muttipadaya and Dummalapadaya.
The role of the Kothalapada dance ritual in the Kohumba Kankariya is to purify the ritual site with the saffron water, where saffron is considered as a natural purifier in our native traditions, which is still believed and practiced even in the modern times.
Walking with great majesty, holding a Buddhist flag, is the elephant Banda, belonging to the Honorable Diyavadana Nilame of the Sri Dalada Maligawa, Honorable Pradeep Nilangadela. The role of carrying a Buddhist flag on the third elephant walk in the Perahera is to symbolize the fact that this is truly a Buddhist festival. Next, we see the Malpadaya dance performance that is trained this evening by Mr. W. M. Dayananda.
The Malpadaya dancers are seen dancing with a coconut flower in their hands.
polmala or the coconut flower is the flower that blooms from the traditional kapruka or national tree of bounty, which denotes prosperity. In fact, the national emblem of Sri Lanka too consists of the vase of coconut flowers known as the punkalasa that is considered as the national symbol of prosperity.
The symbol of this dance is to pray for fertility and prosperity, which is interestingly the prime motive of the Perahera itself.
The symbol of this dance is to pray for fertility and prosperity, which is in fact, interestingly, the prime motive of the Perahera itself. Here we see the chieftain of the Sri Lankan Adivasi tribe, Uruwarige Wanniletto, who has just visited the Sri Dalada Maligawa. And Chammo, that you may know that the first Randoli Perahera has a particular tradition where the Adivasi people offer bees honey to the sacred tooth relic.
Indeed, it is a spectacle that every one of us await on the first Randoli procession day.
Coming all the way from the city of Ratnapura, here we see the majestic elephant Ratna belonging to Venerable Bengamue Dhammadinna Thero, the chief incumbent of the Pelmadulla Rajamaha Vihara and the Sripada Vihara. It can be interesting how to note that even when the Ratnapura Maha Devale Perahera has just commenced from today, Ratna, who is from Ratnapura, has come to Kandy to take part in the
Indeed, we can see that Ratna is proud to be a part of the Kandy Esala Perahera today. The ancient poetic anthology that was written during the kingdom of Kotte, that is famously known as the Salihini Sandeshya, quotes that white tussles in motion along with the majestic elephants are one of the supreme sights of auspicious visualities, and the Chamara dance is certainly an inclusion to add more auspicious value to this Perahera.
In fact, this particular dance act, which is the Thalang dance performance, is one such folk dance item in Sri Lanka, which uses a tool that is commonly used and is essential in any part of dancing practices in Chamala.
Indeed, and it is a very simple dance form performed with just the castanets, and then it is used to show a form of
It is in fact a form of keeping pace and rhythm with the dance act. So the thalampata which you see over here is in fact the key dance prop that is used by dance teachers to help these amateur dancers to keep up with the pace and the beat of the particular dance act. The young performers dash these symbols in the choreographed rhythm and perform a dance that creates both horizontal and vertical line movements in this space, using the right moves that are designed in maintaining the cultural element of this act.
The Thalampata dance is recognized as a Gana dance due to the use of the Thalampata as the main dance tool, which belongs to the Gana variant of the Panchaturya Nada. This evolves its way as a Gana Natuma due to the mere reason of how these artists dash their thalam with each other as a part of their dance performance.
This is quite a special combination, Chamoda. Two of Sri Lanka's tallest elephants walking together in majesty the Kandy Esala Perahera. On one side, the elephant Tharaka belonging to Mr. Kularatna Vichetunga of the Kaduwela Sri Rankadu Pattini Devale, and on the other side, the elephant Gajaba belonging to Mr. Ranjit Vijayasinghe of the Moranwatta Kali Devale in Yakkala. Isn't it so nice to see two of the most tallest elephants walking next to each other in the Perahera? And I believe people who are inquisitive about elephants can now have a hint to find out which one is the taller one.
Indeed, that is a chance not to miss. Now we are witnessing the first appearance of the form of West dance called as the Nayandi dance.
This troupe of Nayandi dancers are being trained by Mr. Saman Nilwitha.
The Nayandi dance is one of the most significant dance performances of the upcountry tradition that holds a very prominent procession in the Kandy Esala Perahera. The word Nayandi is in fact the name of the costume that is worn by the Nayandi dancers, which is the same costume that is worn by the Kandian West dancer, with the exclusion of the devoted headdress that is replaced with a cloth or a turban with a knot on the head center that is taking the shape of a cobra.
In fact, the specialty of the Nayandi dance is that this dance is primarily performed by primitive Kandian dancers who are not yet coronated with the West Tattwa or the costume that is worn by the West dancers. So we can see these dancers in the future being adorned as West dancers of the Kandy Esala Perahera, isn't it, Chamada?
Indeed. And today we will specially see the West dancers adorned with the West Tattwa also, since it's the Randoli Perahera, isn't it?
Exactly. Over the previous 5 nights, we have been seeing a lot of Nayandi dance performances, since the Devale processions, as per the tradition, does not include West dancing until today. Here we see one of the most majestic elephants who are walking with great pride in this evening's Perahera, the great elephant Salia, belonging to Venerable Urulavatte Sri Dhammarakita Thero, the chief incumbent of the historic Mahiyangana Rajamaha Vihara. Did you know, Chamuda, that the Mahout of Salia, who we see, both of them are actually father and son, and the father has been looking after Salia for a period of 41 years.
Indeed, that is a very interesting fact, and we can say that this information are being shared on the social media of Dalada Maligawa Media Bureau these days.
Exactly. You can check out all such information to see the interesting facts behind our elephants who are taking part in this year's Kandy Esala Perahera, just like Salia, who we just noticed. And here we see the Raban acrobats who are being led by Mr. Aryapala Vijayamanna.
The rabana, or the handheld tambourine, is a very popular object used by the folk dancing traditions in Sri Lanka, but this is no such dance even though we see the presence of the tambourine in play. This performance, which involves spinning of the tambourines, which make it more of a sporting performance than a dance item, and that is why this is an act known as the Raban Karakavima or the Raban acrobats. The spinning game of Raban can be identified as a developed performance of the Raban dance. We see several generations of artists who are at different age levels, young, senior, who have developed this intrinsic skill from childhood by learning to spin various objects. We can see a very young performer getting ready for a spectacle with these tambourines.
The Raban is at times recognized as a drum of prosperity according to the Arthata classification of traditional music instruments. Both the Rabana and the Boommadia, which are instruments played only using bare hands, are used in the agricultural entertainment and ritualistic activities in the village setup. Similarly, the Raban also takes great dominance during the Sinhala and Tamil New Year celebrations, as the Raban is used to communicate the festive occasions such as the dawn of the New Year, commencing of dealing and consuming of meals, to name a few. following the Raban acrobats, we are seeing the arrival of another young tusker, probably one of the future stars of the Kandy Esala Perahera. This is none other than the tusker Miyan Kumara, belonging to Venerable Bellangwila Dhammaratana Thero, the chief incumbent of the Bellangwila Rajamaha. In fact, Miyan Kumara, as the name suggests, is also a tusker who was gifted from Myanmar to the Bellangwila Rajamaha in the year 2013. And here we see the Thum and Tum dance troupe that is being led by the veteran dance artist Sujit Anand.
The Thammattama, also known as the Pokuraberea, is a Sinhalese and a kettle drum in English, is a vital instrument of the Hevisi ensemble.
Sri Lanka has many types of drums in use from the ancient times, and reference to these is found in the classical literature such as the Pujavaliya, Tupavansha and Dalada Silta. Although around 33 types of drums are mentioned, today we could only find about 10, and the rest are just confined to names. It is believed that some of those drums that are in use today, like the Daula, Udaki and Thammattama, had their origin in other Asian countries. This may be true, but today, as a result of these drums being in use for a very long time, they have acquired their own shapes, and materials used for construction are also indigenous. These drums are therefore unique to Sri Lanka, and the rhythms played on them are also found here.
And the amazing feature about this Thammattam performance is that we see both playing and dancing with the Thammattama, which is evidently why it is recognized as the Thammattam dance. This is truly a fascinating beauty of Sri Lanka, Sri Lankan performing arts, where our artists are gifted with the talent of making more than what is expected of what we are blessed with.
We also saw the lead of the Sri Dalada Maligawa stables at the beginning of this program, and now we are seeing his successor walking right here, who is the little tusker Raju, who is informally recognized as Little Indiraja due to his physical appearance, which is very similar to the tusker Indiraja of the Sri Dalada Maligawa. Raju belongs to the most venerable Maha Natha Devale of the Asgiriya monastic order, Venerable Varakagoda Gnanaratana Thero. Raju was in fact born in the Pinnavala Elephant Conservation Center in the year 2006 and was gifted to the Maha Natha Devale of the Asgiriya chapter in the year 2009 by the former President of Sri Lanka, Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksha.
Indeed, we see a very promising tusker walking the streets with majestic pride on the first Randoli Perahera today.
Don't you think he does great justice to his mentor Indiraja?
Indeed, he does. And now we are seeing pictures of a mixed folk dance coming up.
The mixed folk dance we see today is being trained by Mr. P.C.B. Vijay Surya.
The traditional dancing in Sri Lanka is segregated into two main types, which are the Shastriya Natum or the dance performances that are based on the healing rituals, and the other being Gaminatum or the folk dance performances. The dance that we see now is a remarkable fusion of not just one but 4 different folk dance forms being danced simultaneously in the same spotlight.
Here we see the dance artists presenting 4 different folk dances, which are the Talampata, the Lekeli, Rabam and the Savaram, which we would actually be seeing performed as an individual dance item across all 5 segments of this majestic Perahera. And this dance act is certainly a snapshot of the beauty of the Sri Lankan folk dance culture.
Indeed, Nilesh, that's why we invite everyone who is around the world to come and witness the grandeur of the Sri Lankan dance forms.
Chamod, if you could notice, even though we see this group as one team performance, they actually divide themselves into sub-teams to perform. Didn't you notice that?
I did notice, and I'm very sure that the spectators also have noticed that. I think that is because they want to add extra glamour and vibrancy to the act.
Definitely. It's always nice to see when 2 elephants who look quite similar to each other also walk next to each other. On one side, we have the elephant Vijitaraja belonging to Venerable Dimbulagala Rahula Lankara Thero, the chief incumbent of the Dimbulagala Aranya Senansaya, and the elephant Kandula Veera belonging to Venerable Kanangama Narada Thero, the chief incumbent of the Sankapitti Vihara in Kaduwela. The fact that I mentioned that both of these elephants look quite similar to each other could be noticed by anyone who can drop by to the Sri Dalada Maligawa premises during the daytime and see if my comment is quite true. And following these 2 majestic elephants, we see the Pantheru dance troupe that is being led by Mr. Sarath Vijay of the Upcountry Dance Faculty.
The panthera is a musical instrument that is used as a rhythmic tool across all three traditions of upcountry, low country and Sabragama. But the Pantheru dance is exclusively belonging to the Udirata or the upcountry traditional dance.
Since the 18th century, the instrument was used for the development of semi-classical dance form, which is an art that was passed down from generation to generation. The dance is classified as a Gananatuma as per the theory of Panchathurunade. Since the Pantheru is an instrument belonging to the Gana classification that needs to be dashed in order to be instrumented. Initially we saw elephants who are of the same height, who are of the same looks, and this particular duo of elephants are actually two of the best friends. On one side, the elephant Raja belonging to Mrs. Sita Senanayaka Mallava of Hettimulla, and the elephant Punchibanda belonging to Miss Anusha Vijayanti of Horana.
Yes, what you can see on their mounts are two Burmese flags. What do you think about it?
This is simply to signify the Burmese relationship of Buddhism that is shared with Sri Lanka and Burma. In fact, these are friendships which are celebrated only during this time of the Kandy Esala Perahera, where the two friends actually meet Anu. Did you know that, Chamoda?
That's a new fact for me.
And that's truly the beauty of the Kandy Esala Perahera, where it's not just a celebration of culture, but a celebration of so many valuable relationships. Next up, we see an Udakki dance performance that is trained by Mr. M.B. Tennakon.
The Udakki, if you observe very closely, is an hourglass shaped small drum which is handheld, and these dancers are holding the Udakki with one hand and then tapping on either side with the other hand and then dancing to the tunes.
The Udakki is an hourglass-shaped hand drum that belongs to the Arthata category of Panchathurunade. since it is played only using hands. The dancers are dressed in the traditional Kandyan attire and dancers while this instrument is played along with recitals that glorify the qualities of Lord Buddha. Sri Lankan tradition of music introduces 64 types of drums, and the udakkiya what we see now is considered as the smallest traditional drum that we find in Sri Lanka. It is in fact used as a musical instrument for healing rituals across all three dance traditions in Sri Lanka. And Chamoda, don't you think that we are just seeing such a majestic sight? Three of Sri Lanka's most majestic tuskers walking with each other. This is the great Tusker Vasana or the Athami of the Maha Kataragama Devale, being guarded by the two young prince Tuskers of the Sri Dalada Maligawa stables, Singharaja and Burmaraja.
I think that's a very magnificent combination that we see today in the procession, which is kind of unlikely too, because these are Tuskers who are usually burdened with the golden the casket, isn't it?
Truly, and it was the ancient tradition that three Tuskers should walk in line ahead of the Perahera casket, which was a practice that couldn't be performed accurately over the past few years due to the shortage of Tuskers. But this year, even though we have a declining population of domestic elephants, we still are lucky to see such a sight this year. The aerial view of the Kandyan city is just about to hint that we are going to reach the spectacle moment of the Dalada Perahera this evening, the arrival of the royal Tusker who will be carrying the Perahera Relic casket.
As we brace ourselves to that spectacular view, we are seeing pictures of the moon, which is also getting ready to hint us of the upcoming Koya Day, which will mark the conclusion of this grand Perahera.
And here we see the troupe of West dancers who will be escorting the way for the royal trio of elephants. And this troupe of West dancers will be led by the artists Ishanta Ihalavela and Lasantha Vansekara.
The West Dancer is a most awaited moment in the Kandy Esala Perahera, and we have waited 5 long days to see this spectacular view.
In fact, Chamoda, the West dancer is the icon of or the branding identity of traditional Sri Lankan dancing across the 7 seas, despite the presence of many artistic dance performances that are authentic to traditional Sri Lankan dance. It is amazing to hear that this is the same picture that is illustrated on anyone's mind when they hear the phrase Sri Lankan dance, which we could be certainly proud of.
Indeed, Nilesh. I think this dance form is one of the many reasons that many fly from overseas to see this dancing spectacle. The rest dance is more than just a ritual. It is a sacred recitation for protection against misfortune. Therefore, the costume of these dancers are also considered sacred. This most glamorous costume symbolically represents the regalia of the King Malaya, the royalty who performed the ancient ritual of Hatapas Mangalya, which is a healing ceremony that was held 2500 years ago.
We are now seeing the Karya Karavana Korada, who is the royal official in charge of the offerings towards the Perahera and the sacred relic casket, and he is surrounded by the Nagasingham instrumentalists, who are of Indian origin and are played when the sacred tooth relic is taken out of the chamber. This evening, on the first Randoli Perahera, the Perahera relic casket shall be carried by the great Tusker Indiraja, the lead Tusker of the Sri Dalada Maligawa stables. And he will be accompanied by the Tusker Mian Raja of the Sri Dalada Maligawa and the Tusker Kotte Raja belonging to Venerable Alutnura Anuruddha Nayaka Thero, the chief incumbent of the Kotte Rajamahavihara. And let us take this moment to feel the devotion towards the sacred relic casket.
Back in history, it was the sacred tooth relic itself which was reverentially carried in the Perahera. But the relic casket we see now is the replica of the casket that lies with the utmost majesty in the relic casket of the Sri Dalada Maligawa.
This is the chamber of versifiers, or the Kavikara Madua, the group of poets who walk behind the relic casket while singing the virtues of Lord Buddha. These versifiers are holding several instruments, including the Pantherwa and the Udakiya, and the specialty of the Kavikara Madu is that these versifiers only perform when the relic casket is taken out of the chamber.
Following the chamber of versifiers, now we are seeing the Malpahan, or the troop carrying the flowers and the lanterns. The youth we see in this occasion are dressed in the most modest costumes that we shall ever see in this Perahera. A plain white robe that illustrates the simplicity and the modest behavior that is expected out of a true Buddhist, which is even highlighted in the most gentle walk that we see out of these young devotees. There are several forms of offering that Sri Lankan Buddhists pledge as puja towards the Lord Buddha, and one of its prominent offerings are flowers and incense sticks, which offer fragrance to the Buddha, and oil lamps which offer light. We see both flowers and lamps in the hands of these devotees, which interpret his episode of the Perahera as an offering of fragrance and light towards the sacred relic casket.
And this troop of flower lanterns are being led by Mr. Samantha Pereira.
These components in the Perahera keeps reminding us that this is an offering and honoring towards the Lord Buddha.
Here we come to the second troop of West dancers of the Sri Dalada Maligawa procession. And this troop of West dancers is actually tasked with escorting the way for the Diyavadana Nilame. Unlike the Kumbal Perahera festivities, all 5 days of the Randoli Perahera, we will be seeing the Diyavadana Nilame himself walking in the Perahera. And this troop of West dancers who are escorting the way for him is being generationally led by the veteran artists Sanjeeva Verapitiya and Peter Surasena.
The West dancing was considered as a part of royalty itself, where it was formally associated with the king since ancient times. When going down history, the West dance was performed in the Anuradhapura kingdom, and this has been rebranded as a Kandian dance. Only after the royalty has shifted the kingdom to Kandy. And today we can see the representation of the king, the Diyavadana Nilame, being escorted by these vibrant West dancers.
this dance is actually more than just a ritual. It is in fact a sacred recitation for the protection against misfortune. Therefore, the costume of these dancers are also considered sacred. This most glamorous costume symbolically represents the regalia of King Malaya, the royalty who performed the ancient ritual of Hatapas Mangalaya, which is a healing ceremony or a Shanti Karmaya that was held 2500 years ago.
And also the respect that is given to this dance form and the entirety of culture associated with it can be seen in the faces of the most senior dancers that we see in the first Randoli procession today. Are dancing, paving the way for the royal setup where the Dalada Maligawa is ascending in the streets of Kandy.
The Kohova Kankariya healing ritual is in fact the prime origin of Kandian dance that narrates the story of the Hatapas Mangalaya. Here we see the arrival of the Honorable Diyavadana Nilame, the lay custodian of the Sri Dalada Maligawa in Kandy, Honorable Pradeep Nilanga Devale.
The Dalada Maligawa is the royal official who granted water to the kings in history and is now designated as the lay protector of the sacred tooth relic of Lord Buddha, which makes him one of the truly respected lay leaders in Buddhism in Sri Lanka.
Honorable Pradeep Nilanga Devale is a devoted Buddhist who is honored internationally for his service rendered towards Buddhism and for his outstanding leadership in preserving Sri Lanka's traditions and cultures for many years ahead. This evening, the Diyavadana Nilame shall be walking under the pearl umbrella known as the Muthukudaya, surrounded by his army of guards, and also will be followed by the Vidanes or the chieftains of the 10 villages that are associated with Sri Dalada Maligawa.
As that marks the end of the Sri Dalada Maligawa Perahera, we see pictures inside the premises of the Sri Maha Natha Devale.
This is in fact the commencement of the second segment of the first Randoli Perahera, which is the procession of the Sri Maha Natha Devale in Kandy.
Coming up first in the Sri Maha Natha Devale are the Buddhist flag bearers.
This troop of Buddhist flag bearers will be represented by the Civil Defence Authority of Pallekele. And Chamuda, you would have noticed that we saw a special flag leading the procession of the Sri Maha Natha Devale, which is the state flag of Matale. Do you know the reason behind this?
You may enlighten us with that.
So the Basnayak Nilame of the Sri Maha Natha Devale in Kandy, AWS Bandaranayaka, is hailing from the region of Matale, and to symbolize his faith towards the king, it is the tradition that the state flag of his birthplace shall be carried in the Perahera.
These Buddhist flags are a continuous reminder that this is a festival where we honor the Lord Buddha and the great preachings.
The Sri Maha Natha Devale in Kandy is located right in front of the Sri Dalada Maligawa, where it is considered as the main shrine that is dedicated towards Lord Natha, and one of the oldest buildings in Kandy that was built even before the Sri Dalada Maligawa. The procession of the Natha Devale is first to follow the Dalada Perahera due to the belief that God Natha is next in line to attain Buddhahood.
The origin of the Buddhist flag that we see today and which is used internationally dates back to the year 1885, where it was designed by the Colombo Committee of Ceylon, which was graced by the prominent Buddhist personalities such as Venerable Hikkaduwe Sumangala Thero, Venerable Migettuwatte Gunananda Thero, and Don Karolis Heva Vitarana. And this was the first publicly hoisted. This was first publicly hoisted on the Vesak public holiday under the British rule.
The well-known fact behind God Natha is the belief that he is the next in line to attain Buddhahood as Maitri Bodhisattva, where he is also identified as Avalokiteshvara in Indian cults. The iconography of God Natha is shown as a gentle young man of fair complexion who holds a lotus flower on his left hand. He is in fact named as one of the most dominant gods associated in the hill country.
And throughout this procession of the Natha Devale, we can see that the color which is unique to the God Natha being represented, and a special animal represented, isn't it, Nilesh?
Yes, in fact, it is believed that the color of saffron, as you mentioned, is the color that is unique to the Sri Maha Natha Devale. So, as Chamoda correctly mentioned, we'll be seeing the color yellow being infused throughout the Perahera. So this is the arrival of the Hevisi troupe of the Sri Maha Natha Devale in Kandy, which has been represented by the team led by Mr. SYG Vijayasena. performs across many streets that occupy the Kandy town once it steps down to the Dalada Vidya. Once it passes down from this esplanade known as the Maha. And the interesting fact is that the symphony played by the Havisi troupe shall change once they turn into a new street or Vidya, and the same Valinadaya series of steps are performed as the transition movement in between the changing tunes.
Now that is a very subtle fact for you all to notice if you're at a point where the procession is turning.
It is fascinating to know how all of the blend of these instruments individually contribute to the symphonic sound of the overall ensemble. When musically analyzing the instruments on its own, we see that the daula is used to create a deep echoing sound. The tammatam, on the other hand, creates a noise that is heard to a far distance, while the horanava creates a high-pitched wind noise, and all of these put together creates the iconic symphony that covers the heritage of Sri Lanka.
Indeed, it's a beautiful fusion, and we can see these Havisi being played throughout the procession in every component of all Devalayas.
Leading the procession of the Sri Maha Natha Devale in Kandy is the elephant Sandevraja, belonging to the native physician and the stable in charge of the Sri Dalada Maligawa, Mr. Pradeep Sanjay Miyanapalava. In fact, Chamoda, it was a very special year for this little elephant Sandevraja this year, as he was coronated as a ceremonial elephant of the Sri Maha Natha Devale in the 3rd Kumbal Perahera for the very first time in his life this year. And following Sandevraja, we are now seeing a Likeli dance item that is trained by Mr. Upali Dharmaratna.
Likeli is also another interesting folk dance of the upcountry tradition that consists of performers having 2 wooden sticks on their hands who shall dash them together in a rhythmic individuality. Being a folk dance itself, this dance too sets a village picture for the audience.
Following the troupe of Likeli, we are now seeing the Gajanayaka Nilame of the Sri Maha Natha Devale in Kandy, the royal official who is in charge of the elephants that are taking part in this procession of the Sri Maha Natha Devale. And today he is on the mount of the elephant Rohana, belonging to Mr. Varuna Kannangara of Horana. And did you know, Chamoda, that it was the elephants that belonged to the Kannangara family in Horana that were the crowned elephants in charge of carrying the relics of God Natha in the Kandy Esala Perahera for many years. And the interesting fact is that still the role is being played in the final Randoli Perahera by this elephant Rohana, who is a part of this Kannangara family.
Now that is a long-lasting relationship which will go on for years. And now we are seeing the pictures of the Savarang dancers.
And this troupe of Savarang dancers are being trained by Mr. Dilshan Shalika. And I believe this is the first time in today's Perahera that we will be seeing the Savarang dance.
This is a dance item which involves these tassels, which are used quite often in the Perahera. But this is not the usual Chamara dance which we saw earlier.
The savarama, or the main tool that is used by these dancers, consists of not one but two tassels attached on both its ends, which makes it a longer version of the chamara instrument. However, the savarama too is meant to serve the same purpose as the chamara, which is to fan and cool the impending icon of worship, which was traditionally the king and today the relic casket or requirements of God. And in this particular instance, it is the godly ornaments of Lord Natha.
The choreography of this folk dance, that style of the upcountry tradition, is designed to symbolize fanning, that is performed using different dance steps, different stances, and the visual beauty that is created by these tassels in motion are surely a soothing sight. Coming on to sight next are the Pantheru dancers. These Pantheru dances are in fact similar to the Pantheru dances that we saw earlier, and also an interesting fact to note is that this costume is unique to the upcountry tradition.
Since the 18th century, the costume of the Pantheru dance is one of its in its simplest forms that are designed to the upcountry tradition. And now we see the third elephant of the Sri Maha Natha Devale Perahera, who is Kandula, belonging to Mr. Roshan Samarakkodi of Maharagama. In fact, this elephant is also known as Rasvehera to symbolize the fact that he was born in the wilds of Rasvehera in Anuradhapura. Following Kandula, we are now seeing the troupe of thumb at thumb instrumentalists who are being trained by Mr. Jagat Asuranada of Ridigama. And in fact, Chamoda, it is the same family of Asuranada who we witnessed previously in the Dalada Perahera segment, who are representing this thumb at thumb dance performance. And in fact, the two siblings are representing the same dance act in two segments of the Perahera, which is quite interesting to note, isn't it?
Indeed, Nilesh. And I think these traditions coming down from generation to generation is what ensures that these traditions keep on going for many more years to come.
The amazing feature about this Thammattam performance is that we see both playing and dancing with the Thammattama, which is evidently why it is recognized as the Thammattam Natuma or the Thammattam dance. This is truly the fascinating beauty of Sri Lankan performing arts. And now we see another elephant of the Sri Maha Pattini Devale, of the Sri Maha Natha Devale this evening, who is Devmini, belonging to Venerable Boralande Vajranyana Thero, the chief incumbent of the Sambodhi Vihara in Colombo.
And now we are seeing another tambourine dance. So this tambourine dance is a bit different to what we saw earlier. Earlier we saw a dance with tambourines which took more of an acrobatic performance. But now we see that the tambourines are held in the hand and then they're dancing to the tunes.
This is the Raban dance item that we will be seeing performed by Mr. Anjana Gamage.
This dance performance is one of the folk dances, which is a very simple form of dance.
It's a plethora of so many different candy and dance items pooled together in the Perahera. And this is the Udakki dance performance that is led by Mr. Dhammika Tennakon. The Udakki dance is actually not just a simple dance item. In fact, it is an art performance that comprises of dancing, singing, and also playing of this Udakki drum. And if you noticed, the Udakkiya, which has a string and a tussle attached onto it, is actually the method used to control the tempo of this particular drum. Among the many elephants dressed in yellow who will be colouring the procession of God Natha this evening, this is the elephant Sudu Mahathya belonging to the Colombo Fort Magistrate, Mr. Tilina Sulochana Gamage. even though it may not have been noticed by our spectators, did you know that all of these elephant costumes are newly tailored for this year's Esala Perahera Chamoda?
Well, it's an interesting fact to know. But is it the tradition? Has it been the tradition all through these years?
It has never been a tradition of such, but it is something which we can be happy because all of these costumes are not being done by the particular Devale, but it's all gifted by people. And an increased number of costumes are gifted every year symbolizes the fact there are an increased number of devotees who are supporting the enrichment of the Perahera. So it certainly proves the fact that the Perahera is in safe hands for the future.
Indeed, it's very important that everybody, as Sri Lankans, take pride in this event, which is a great ensemble, which is not a simple task, it's a mammoth task to put together all these dancers, elephants and everything to entertain the people and also to keep the culture going.
And here we see the troupe of Nayandi dancers who have been trained by Mr. Indika Pradeep Velikumura. Nayandi is in fact also known as the Ada West dance performance because it includes the same costume as the West dance with the exclusion of the headgear. And here we see the elephant Lasanda belonging to the Devinuru Pulwan Vishnu Devale. Lasanda is also an elephant who was found in the wilds of Monaragala back in the 1990s and was gifted from the Pinnaval Elephant Orphanage thereafter in the year 2011 by the former president of Sri Lanka, Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksha. And here we reach the pinnacle moment of the Sri Maha Natha Devale Perahera, where we see the arrival of the ceremonial elephants carrying the godly ornaments of Lord Natha, being escorted by these West dancers who have been trained by Mr. Vishuddhivera Pittiya. Apart from the Sri Maha Natha Devale in Kandy, there are several other shrines dedicated to God Natha that includes the Vegiriya Natha Devale in Gampala, the Dodangwala Natha Devale in Yatinura, and the Paskava Natha Devale in Hewahata, and also the most famous Vidyagoda Natha Devale, which is in the Raigam city of Horana. Here we see the chief trustee of the Sri Maha Natha Devale in Kandy, who shall be walking ahead of the ceremonial elephant carrying the godly ornaments of Lord Natha. This evening, in the first Randoli Perahera, the godly ornaments of Lord Natha will be carried by the elephant Arjuna, belonging to Venerable Karatota Panyasiha Thero, the chief incumbent of the Vauru Kannala Rajumaha Vihare in Dikwella. Arjuna will be accompanied by the elephant Bandhara, belonging to Mr. Ishanka Tilakaratna of Randeniya, alongside with the elephant Kueni, belonging to Mr. Mahinda Millangoda of Kegol. And you can notice, Chamoda, how the lotus flower, which is a unique symbol of Lord Natha, nicely being designed on the costumes of these elephants. And let us take this moment to feel the devotion towards Lord Natha.
Another interesting fact that we can see is that flowers are being offered to the casket carrying the reliquaries of God Natha.
Here we see the second troop of West dancers in the Perahera, who are tasked with escorting the way for the Basnayaka Nilame of the Sri Maha Natha Devale in Kandy. And this troop of West dancers will be led by Mr. Asanka Karunaratna.
Although we see this West dance form being repeated in several segments of the Perahera, it is never a tiring sight to eye. You can keep watching this form of dance. And also in the Perahera, the interesting fact is that a West dance performance is a hint that some climax of the Perahera is impending.
The legend of God Natha takes us down through many cults in Buddhism, including the Mahayana and Theravada traditions, where he is predominantly associated as the future Buddha in the Sri Lankan history. In fact, there are recorded evidence and mentions of God Natha in the Sandesha Kavya of Tisara, Gira and Koul, where God Natha was one of the prime deities who was seeked by the ancient kings of Sri Lanka. The Kohomba Kankariya ritual is in fact the prime origin of Kandian dance, that narrates the story of the Hatapas Mangale evolvement in Sri Lanka, and the West dance is one of the key representations of the Kohomba Kankarya, along with several other interesting dance acts such as the Kuweni Asna and Kohomba Halla, which we will be seeing in other Perahera ceremonies around the island.
And the fact that the history of Kohomba Kankarya runs back to the 4th century BC, which is 2500 years ago, is also an interesting fact to note.
This is the majestic site where the Basnayaka Nilame of the Sri Maha Natha Devale in Kandy, AWS Bandaranayaka, will be walking in the Perahera. Basnayaka Nilame AWS Bandaranayaka is currently the custodian of the Sri Maha Natha Devale in Kandy and the Ambeka Kataragama Devale in Daulagala.
Basnayaka Nilame of the Sri Maha Natha Devale. Honorable AWS Bandaranayaka is also given a similar respect to the Devada Nilame we saw earlier.
In fact, just like the Dalada Maligawa, the Sri Maha Natha Devale in Kandy too has its associated villages, and following him are the Vidanes or the chieftains of those villages.
And we can see that guards are lining the streets to provide that protection which he declares.
And that marks the end of the Sri Maha Natha Devale Perahera.
Now we see the commencement of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devale Perahera.
The Sri Maha Vishnu Devale in Kandy, that is also prominently identified as the Maha Devalaya or the Great Shrine, is in the hill capital that is dedicated to Lord Vishnu among the Satara Maha Devalaya in Kandy. Leading the procession of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devale are the state flags. Lord Vishnu is in fact believed to be the protector of Sri Lanka, and the usage of state flags is used to represent the fact that Lord Vishnu shall be protecting each and every state that is represented by these state flags that cover the ancient administrative districts, provinces, states, and counties of Sri Lanka.
Among the diverse religious beliefs that are observed in this island nation of Sri Lanka, Lord Vishnu is a virtuous god who is popularly being worshipped by both Sri Lankan Hindu and Buddhist devotees. He is known by 108 other names including Hari, Madhava, Venkateshwara and Narayan, apart from the Sri Lankan recognition as Upulwan.
This Devale is located northeast to the Sri Dalada Maligawa, which is accessed easily via the Rajavidya and is considered as the prominent religious site in Kandy that is only seconded to the Sri Dalada Maligawa. And this evening, leading the procession of Lord Vishnu, we see the elephant Haritha belonging to Mr. Tusitha Ranawaka of Deniyaya. And on the mount of Haritha we see an official carrying the flag of the Satara Koralaya, known as the flag of the sun and moon, where in fact a particular king had once given a gift to the people of the Satara Koralaya for their bravery, and one of those 5 gifts is this flag of the sun and moon. And here we see the official Hevisi troop of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devale that is led by Mr. Saman Arambegedara. And a particular feature about this particular troop of Hevisi is that this is of the Alut Nuwara Hevisi variant, which is in fact quite contrary to what we were discussing about the Perahera, since the Kandy Esala Perahera celebrates Kandian traditions in dance. But Alut Nuwara, as we all know, is of the Sabaragamu origin, which marks the fact that this is the only Sabaragamu affiliated Hevisi that we will be seeing in the Kandy Esala Perahera.
In this Hevisi troop, we see a multitude of generations being represented, including very young players and dancers.
And I must mention the fact that even though I mentioned that Satara Koralaya is part of Sabaragamu province, this particular troop of Hevisi does not belong to the Sabaragamu variant, but it is of the Kandian variant, which is of the Alut Nuwara sub-variant. Different sources of history have pronounced this deity and the Devalaya by different names, where one such evidence noted by the English prisoner Robert Knox had called the deity in this Devalaya as Alut Nuwara Deviyu, who had been brought to Alut Nuwara in Kegol from Devinura in Matara, while another legend identifies this god as Upulwan Deyu, which translates to the blue color god. And I believe that statement highlighted the resemblance between Alut Nuwara and the Sri Maha Vishnu Devale in Kandy.
And when you mentioned Upulwan, Nilesh, it symbolizes the color of blue. And we can see throughout this procession that the color of blue is being highlighted in the costumes of the elephants and also in the dances.
The Hevisi troop of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devale is notably special among all of the other Hevisi troops that we would see throughout this procession, based on several importances. As we know, the inaugural ritual of the Esala Perahera is the Kapsituima, or the planting of jack in the auspicious hour. And this piece of jack plant is being cut from the village of Alut Nuwara that is located in the footsteps of Kadugannawa that marks the entrance to the district of Kandy. And here we see the Gajanayaka Nilame of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devale in Kandy, who is the royal official in charge of the elephants that will be taking part in the procession of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devale. And we were speaking so much about Alut Nuwara, and Chamoda, this particular elephant is also from Alut Nuwara. This is Suranimala, belonging to the Alut Nuwara Dadimunda Devale. In fact, the Alut Nuwara Dadimunda Devale is affiliated with the Sri Maha Vishnu Devale in several ways. And next up we see a troupe of Pantheru dance performers.
has a circumference of 28 inches and 5 mini symbols attached to it along the ring. The tradition behind Panthero describes 5 ways in which the Panthero should be held by a dancer. And we too could carefully notice how the performers change hands in between the dance moves. Among the many legends behind the evolution of Panthero, one such story describes how Panthero is in fact the Chakrayudha or the Sudarshana Chakra of Lord Vishnu.
Another special flag, Chamoda, this is called the Savarankodia, which is another gift among those 5 gifts that I told that were gifted to the people of Alotnura by the particular king for their bravery. And the Savarankodia is in fact only taken out for the Randoli Perahera. This evening the Savarankodia will be carried on the elephant Mutubanda belonging to Venerable Varakagoda Jnanaratana Thero, the most venerable Maha Natha Devale of the Asgiriya monastic order and the chief incumbent of the Mutiyangana Rajamaha Viharaya. Next, we will be seeing the Savarang dance item that is trained by Mr. Ruwan Talgahagoda of the Nitya Thali Aesthetic Academy.
Draped in a vibrant blue color attire, we can see the dancers taking the streets with much pride. The choreography of this folk dance that styled the upcountry tradition is designed to symbolize fanning, that is performed using different dance steps, different stances and visual beauty that is created by these tussles in motion, which is surely a soothing sight.
Among the many different interesting facts that I have been telling you about the Perahera, did you know that this particular dance academy, the Nityathal Dance Gurukula or the Dance Academy, that is led by Mr. Ruwan Talgahagoda, is actually a dancing lineage that has been hailing from the times of the ancient kings.
Indeed, we had a hint of that because we never failed to hear the name of this dance academy throughout the years. When we talk about these Savarang dances, earlier in the days, they were not made artificially. In fact, it was known to be the tail hair of the Semara deer who lived on the top of the Himalaya mountains.
And now we see the elephant Banda belonging to Mr. Sisira Samarakon of Polgahavela walking aside with the elephant Sanju belonging to Mr. Jagat Vitana of Matugama. Next we are seeing a Udakki dance performance.
The origin of the Udakkiya is believed to be originating from the Dhammarua drum that is seen in the iconography of Lord Ishvara, a renowned deity who is much popular among Hindus around the world. Lord Ishvara is in fact the father of Lord Skanda, which coincidentally builds the relationship with the Udaki dance and the Kandy Esala Perahera.
In fact, Chamuda, the Udakkiya, is an instrument that is used in the offerings towards Lord Vishnu, as several poems in the Udakki dance performances highlight the virtues of Lord Vishnu as well.
Indeed, Nilesh. And also, in the Sri Lankan tradition, although there are 64 different types of drums, Udakkiya is known to be the smallest drum.
What could be the procession of Lord Vishnu be without the presence of the famous Mudunkot Athinna, or the female elephant of Mudunkot, Muthu, belonging to Mr. Indika Mudunkot of Manikinna, who has taken part in this Perahera since her childhood, who is walking alongside with the elephant Gamunu Kandula, representing the Pinnavala Elephant Conservation Centre. As the blue adorned ceremonial elephants of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devale shall be taking noble strides in the Mahamaluva this evening, we are seeing the aerial images of this beautiful citadel of Kandy being illuminated to welcome the Randoli Perahera. And now we see the highlighted moment of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devale Perahera, where everyone shall rise from their seats to welcome the ceremonial elephant carrying the godly ornaments of Lord Vishnu. And the West dance we see here is to welcome this troop of ceremonial elephants.
The West dance is a fusion of playing instruments, dancing and singing the praises of Lord Buddha and also of the sacred tooth relic.
This troupe of West dancers are being trained by Mr. Sarath Ekanayaka. Here we see the chief trustee of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devale in Kandy, who is walking ahead of the ceremonial elephant of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devale. And a speciality of the Randoli Perahera is that we see the Tabboru instrumentalists walking in front of the ceremonial elephant of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devale, which is quite similar to Nagasingham, which we noticed in the Dalada Perahera, that is also of Indian origin. And this evening the requilleries of Lord Vishnu shall be carried by the great elephant Madhu, belonging to Venerable Warakagoda Nyanratana Thero, the most Venerable Maha Natha Devale of the Askiriya chapter. Madhu will be accompanied by the elephant Chuti Manike, belonging to Mr. Bharat Amaratunga of Meegoda, and Rani, belonging to Mr. Deepthi Kumar of Biyagama.
As those vibrantly colored tuskers take on the streets, we are yet to witness another climax moment of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devale procession.
It is this time of the year that Kandy will be a highlighted city in not just Sri Lanka but all across the world, as tourists and devotees from all seven seas shall flock down to this city of Kandy to witness this extravagant event. Here we see the second troop of West dancers of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devale Perahera, who are being led by Mr. Kondadeniye Samansiri, and they are tasked with escorting the way for the Basnayaka Nilame of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devale. West dancing was considered as a part of royalty itself, where it was formally associated with the kings since ancient times. When going down history, the West dance was performed in the time of the Anuradhapura kingdom, and it had been rebranded as a Kandian dance only after the royalty had shifted the kingdom from Anuradhapura to Kandy. Here we see the majestic arrival of the Basnayaka Nilame of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devale in Kandy, Honorable Mahindra Ratwatte. Honorable Mahindra Ratwatte is the current Basnayaka Nilame of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devale in Kandy and the Dadimunda Devale in Alutnura. The Basnayaka Nilame shall walk under the pearl umbrella surrounded by his guards, and that marks the end of the procession of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devale.
And now we see the commencement of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devale procession.
The Sri Maha Kataragama Devale in Kandy is one of the key places of worship that are dedicated to Lord Kataragama in the city of Kandy. And the specialty of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devale being only out of the Satara Maha Devale, or the four main shrines that is located outside the premises of the Sri Dalada Maligawa, as it is located in the Kotugodalla Vidya, which was known as the ancient Kavikara Vidya, where the poets of the king had used to reside during the ancient times of royalty. And what we noticed were the flag bearers of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devale, who were represented by the Civil Defence Authority of Pallekele. And now we will be seeing the official Hevisi troop of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devale, led by Mr. P.V. James, representing the Lalita Kala Aesthetic Academy.
Lord Kataragama, or the god of war, is a divine deity who is worshipped as Kanda Kumara, Kartikeya, or Murugan in the South Indian tradition, and as Kanda Surindu, Kadira, or Kataragama Deviyo in his Sri Lankan cut. He is considered as one of the most powerful deities who has an appearance of 6 heads and 12 hands, who sits on the peacock with his consorts Tevani, Tevaniyamman and Valiyamman.
The step known as the Bahirava Valinadaya, performed in the closing episode of the Perahera, when each of the 4 Devala requilleries are being taken back to the shrines, where it is also accompanied by the situational variant of Hevisi that is known as Hevisi Pahe Hevisi.
We could see the Hevsi troops at the beginning of almost all the segments of this Perahera, and now we are again seeing a sight of its majestic elephant coming.
Leading the procession of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devale is the elephant Aruna, who has a long-lasting history with the Sri Maha Kataragama Devale in Kandy. Aruna belongs to Venerable Higgoda Chandimathero, the chief incumbent of the Handala Rajamaha Viharaya in Vattala. Across the many vibrant dance acts that we will be seeing in the procession of Lord Kataragama, here we see a vibrant Thalam dance performance that is trained by Mr. Vasala Rajasirita of the Vasala Rajasirita Aesthetic Academy.
Thalam, also known as the castanets, is a very simple instrument which is used to keep pace in dancing. And we can see these young dancers have decorated their castanets in vibrant color sleeves to add color and glamour to this act they are performing tonight.
It is believed that Lord Kataragama is the younger son of Lord Shiva and goddess Parvati, and he is considered as an important deity in the Indian subcontinent. And now we see the Gajanayaka Nilame of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devale in Kandy, who is dressed in the traditional white costume that is used for the Dalada Maligawas. This Gajanayaka Nilame is on the mount of the elephant Podiraju, belonging to Mr. Chamila Bandaranayaka of Gannoruwa. Next, we are seeing a Savarang dance performance that is being trained by Mr. Suraj Madhushan Pereira of the Divyanjali Aesthetic Academy.
As mentioned earlier, these Savarang were, in the ancient times, they were not made artificially. They were made from the tail hair of a deer called Semara, who is believed to be in the top of the Himalayan mountains. And the breeze that is sent by these tail hairs is known to be one of the most cooling breezes in the world.
Just like the other gods, Lord Kataragama too has a weapon that is unique to himself, known as the Velayuddha, along with the other symbols such as the peacock and the color red. According to Richard Gombrich, Skanda has been an important deity in the Theravada Buddhist pantheon in countries such as Sri Lanka and Thailand. Here we see two young elephants of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devale Perahera, who is taking part all the way from the city of Hambantota Chamoda. This is Hesara and Hiruni, belonging to Mr. Ajit Galage of Hambantota. And next, for the very first time in history, we have an all-new dance team taking part. in the Sri Maha Kataragama Devale Perahera, and that is represented by the Hasita Ramanayaka dance troupe. And this particular dance troupe will be performing the Patturu dance performance for the very first time. And I believe this is the first time we are seeing the Patturu dance in the Perahera too, I guess, this evening.
Indeed it is. Patturu is an upcountry style folk dance act that is known for the faster tempo when compared to the other folk dance acts that is performed in the country. The dancers hold a set of wooden splinters known as Patturu on one hand, and they perform to the beat of the upcountry Gattaberaya and the melodious flute while clapping the splinters on various designated parts of the body.
The legend of god Kataragama narrates his arrival in Sri Lanka as a very interesting story of romance. According to the story, Lord Kataragama had witnessed a tribal young girl named Valli from the southeastern wilds of Sri Lanka, with whom he fell in love with. In order to win Valli as his consort, he had reached Sri Lanka via the shores of Deundara in Mathura and reached the city of Kataragama in search for Valli. This is an interesting episode, didn't you notice that it's a common technique in folk dancing that the groups divide into subgroups during the particular dance performance.
And now we are seeing pictures of Pantheru dancers coming up in the Kataragama Devale procession.
And this Pantheru dance performance is being trained by Mr. Lakmal Veerasinghe of the Hela Kala Aesthetic Academy.
Pantheru dance is also a very unique form of dance which we can see repeating in each segment of the Perahera.
And also, did you notice, Chamuda, that even though it repeated, there were several dance acts which reported in each part of the Perahera, but in all of those dance performances, the costume was quite different to each other. But similar to the West dance, the Pantheru dance performance too has a lot of consistency in the dance costume, did you notice?
Indeed, even though their acts, the way they dance may differ from one segment to the other, the costume remains consistent throughout.
If anyone focuses on what they are hearing right now, it hints that we are just going to take a twist in the Perahera.
Indeed, Nilesh, we can see a South Indian tinge or hue added to this Kataragama Devale procession, which makes the beats a bit heady.
And this is probably something that all spectators were waiting for to commence in the Randoli Perahera. And here we are, the Kavadi dance troupe that turns the entire tempo, the rhythm, the taste, the flavor, and also the look of the Perahera into a totally different level. This particular troupe of Kavadi is being trained by Mr. Indika Prasad Kularatna.
many offerings that are made towards Lord Kataragama, Kavadi dancing is renowned as one of the most prominent dances of devotion that is performed to impress the likings. Kavadi is in fact a Tamil word that translates to burden in English. And this dance ritual originates from South India by the name of Kavadi Attam or the burden dance.
Devotees believe that Lord Kataragama is impressed by energy, and Kavadi dancing is one of its key interpretations, where these performers hold the hillocks known as Kavadi or the physical burden as you mentioned, the semicircle shaped wooden props with peacock feathers attached to it on their shoulders, and dance to the fast tempo music in full energy, while at times the most authentic form of Kavadi is performed without a single practice of choreography, but instead a fast-paced and highly energetic dance.
When examining the facts about the history of Kavadi, its ancient story is rooted down in Tamil mythology, where Lord Shiva has entrusted the sage Agastya to install two hillocks, the hill of Shivagiri and Shaktigiri in South India. The task was conducted by his disciple Udumban, who lifted these hillocks with divine assistance, and at one point when he rested down in the South Indian village of Pattini, that is known as the famous shrine of Lord Murugan, he found the hillocks being immovable and scuffled with a youth who claimed ownership of the said hillocks.
What we just noticed was the Kohomba Kalaya dance act, that is also a part of the procession that is dedicated towards Lord Kataragama. And here we see the peacock dance. This dance act is truly a part of the cult of God Kataragama, and these talented dancers have been represented by Mr. Mahesh Veerasekara of the Surindu Aesthetic Academy. Chamuda, would you like to comment about the peacock and the affiliation with Lord Kataragama?
Indeed, the peacock is believed to be the mount of God Kataragama. So we can see that the peacock is being represented in this procession throughout, in the costumes of the elephants, in the costumes of the dancers, and also we have a dance act dedicated to the peacock. The prop which represents the feathers of the peacock is in fact actually decorated with the actual feathers of a peacock.
Unlike the previous years, I noticed quite a new addition to the dance props of these peacocks, as we see lights attached to it, which is not of course traditional, but in a way it's a creative touch to enlighten, to uplift the vibrance of the Perahera, I can say.
Indeed, the fusion of modernity and culture creates a beautiful output.
Unlike the previous Kavadi dance performance which we noticed before, now we see the Bhakti Kavadi. And this troupe of Bhakti Kavadi is being represented by Mr. Deshan Nipun of the Nipunaranga Athanaya from Kamburupiti. It's interesting that they have come all the way from Mathura to Kandy to perform this Chamoda.
Indeed, just like the tuskers and the elephants travel from far away, these dancers also have traveled a very long distance to perform in this religious grandeur?
There are many different types of kavadi which we can see in Sri Lanka, and one of that is Bhakti Kavadi, which is this particular form of kavadi which is danced using the peacock feathers. And there's a difference, if you would have noticed, that they perform a choreographed dance unlike the previous dance which was of freestyle. So this can be represented as a performing based kavadi unlike the previous kavadi puja which we noticed in the previous episode.
And also, Nilesh, isn't this dance form a very unique and a very a sight that you can often see in the Kataragama Devale?
Of course, yes. Following the Bhakti Kavadi performance, we are seeing the last elephant of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devale, who is Rani, belonging to Mr. Nalaka Jayasinghe of Kodagama. And here we come to the much awaited moment of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devale Perahera, the arrival of the ceremonial troop of elephants who will be carrying the requiraries of Lord Kataragama. And they will be escorted by the West dancers who are being led by Mr. Gaishan Malagamana of the Malagamana Aesthetic Academy.
Yet again, this troupe of his dancers hints us the impending approach of the requiraries of God Kataragama.
It would be a moment of a few seconds, but I believe everyone's attention would be into a special episode in just a few more seconds to go. There would be a particular instance in this particular Perahera where the most venerated performances of both Hindu culture and Sinhalese culture will get together at one point to welcome the ceremonial elephants of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devale, where both of them will be performing simultaneously together. This is exactly what I showed you, the Nadaswaram tunes. The instrumentalist equipped with South Indian mridangam, Chennai pipe and the Tawil drum while playing music that are venerative songs towards Lord Kataragama. The cultural unity of our religious traditions can be noticed in this frame as we highlight with pride as we hear the upcountry Gata Berea and the Hindu Tawil Berea being played together at the same time. And isn't this Chamoda truly the simple taste of real Sri Lankan unity?
Indeed, Nilesh, we discussed many different reasons as to how the Perahera of Kataragama Devale is much different to the rest of the procession. And this is one such unique reason why. And this difference in terms creates a beautiful fusion and a thought of the unity of the different cultures in Sri Lanka.
you had just noticed that particular frame in which the Tawil Bere and the Gata Bere were captured at the same time. Following the Tawil Nadaswaram, which plays patriotic songs towards Lord Kataragama, we will be seeing the chief trustee of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devale, who is the Iyer, who is of Hindu origin. In fact, he is an engineer by profession, but a devoted sense that all of us Sri Lankans share with our traditions create that amazing motivation to balance out between our profession and personal commitments. And here we see the ceremonial tusker Rama belonging to the late Mr. Tudor Gunasekara of Heyanthudua, carrying the godly ornaments of Lord Kataragama. Rama is accompanied by the elephant Esala belonging to Venerable Katugastota Sarada Thero, the chief incumbent of the Pirisyala Sena Nayaka Mudalinda Rama temple, and the elephant Bibila belonging to Mr. Udara Galapatti of Giriulla.
Following the sacred requillaries, we see the second West troop of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devale, trained and led by Mr. Gayashan Malagammana of the Malagammana Dancing Academy.
The Sri Maha Kataragama Devale in Kandy is constructed in the shape of an oblong building with wood-carved valence boards having a narrow passage on all four sides. The premises host a main shrine dedicated towards Lord Kataragama, along with several other shrines dedicated to several gods including Lord Ganapati and Lord Ishvara. This West troop, who are tasked with escorting the majestic Basnayaka Nilame, will be welcoming the Honorable Basnayaka Nilame of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devale in Kandy, Honorable Daminda Bandara Uduravana.
We can see the royal setup that is given to this Basnayaka Nilame, where there are two lines of guards and an umbrella to depict the protection given to the trustee of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devale.
Honorable Daminda Bandaran Uduravana is in fact the Basnayak Nilame of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devale in Kandy and also the Maha Natha Devale in Hewahatta. And as you mentioned correctly, he will be walking under the pearl umbrella or the Mutukudaya, surrounded by the guards with the Murayuda weapons and followed by the chieftains or the Vidanis of the villages that are affiliated to the Sri Maha Kataragama Devale, while that marks the end of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devale Perahera.
We are approaching the final segment of the first Randoli procession of 2024, which is the Sri Maha Pattini Devale procession.
The Sri Maha Pattini Devale in Kandy is the only shrine of the Kandian Satara Maha Devalaya that is dedicated to the virtuous goddess Pattini, who is also the only female representation among the guardian deities of the sacred tooth relic.
Now we see pictures of Buddhist flag bearers coming up front in the Sri Maha Pattini Devale procession.
These Buddhist flag bearers are represented by the Civil Defence Authority of Pallekele. And following the Buddhist flag bearers, we are seeing the official Hevisi ensemble of the Sri Maha Pattini Devalaya, which is being led by Mr. M.G. Palita Nishanka, Mr. N.G. Sirisena and Mr. M.G. Premadasa.
Nilesh, we saw these heavy drums throughout the procession. Is this only limited to this procession, or is this a tradition which is being carried out in the Devalas?
In fact, Havisi is recognized as the official sound offerings not just for the sacred tooth relic, but also for the four Devalas and the four deities. And Havisi is not just a part of the Perahera, but also it's a part of the daily, weekly, monthly, and also the annual rituals that are taking place in the Devalaya, where every day one could hear the sound of Havisi being played at the Tevava, or the daily offerings that are taking place at the Sri Dalada Maligawa and also in the four Devala shrines. And believe me, it's such a mesmerizing tune to hear. Don't you agree?
Indeed, one who would visit these premises of Devalas or the Sri Dalada Maligawa wouldn't fail to hear these beautiful tunes if they visit.
The Devala is located in the premises of the Sri Dalada Maligawa that can be easily reached via the Deva Vidya and is separated from the Sri Maha Natha Devale from the ancient Atvidya, which is still used to be the resting ground since then for the royal elephants. Here we see the Gajanayak Nilame of the Sri Maha Pattini Devalaya, the royal official in charge of the troop of elephants who will be taking part in the Sri Maha Pattini Esala Perahera. And he is on the mount of the elephant Isuru, belonging to Venerable Urlayavatte Sri Dhammarakita Thero, the chief incumbent of the Mahiyangana Rajamaha Viharaya. Isuru is in fact born in the Pinnaval Elephant Orphanage in the year 1996 and was gifted to the Mahiyangana Rajamaha Viharaya in the year 2002. And next up we are seeing the upcountry traditional dance performance that is trained by the Dandiyagama Aesthetic Academy of Mavatagama.
One may wonder if the elegant presentation of the Kandian dancing is only biased towards male. As we notice this dance, that thought is certainly proved wrong with the dance act of these beautiful female dancers taking the streets as the only female representation in the whole procession. The interesting fact is that we can see female dancers only in the Pattini Devale procession. The special feature of this dance is the Shirsha Bharanaya or the Pain Patha, which is the special headgear that is worn by these dancers. Just like how the West dancers are ceremoniously adorned with the West headgear, its female counterparts is this Shirsha Bharana or the Pain Patha. And that is also ceremoniously adorned to the dancers after years of practice in the same festive ceremony known as the Kala Eli Mangalya.
Here we see the elephant Sita belonging to Mr. Roshan Samarakkodi of Maharagama. If you notice Chamuda in the trunk piece or the Nettimale that is worn by Sita, we notice a very special symbol that is unique to Goddess Pattini, which is the Pattini Salaba or the anklet of Goddess Pattini.
Indeed, there are very famous folklores attached to the anklet of Goddess Pattini.
And here we see a Paturu dance performance that is trained by Mr. Nishanta Sangeet Navaranga of the Navaranga Aesthetic Academy of Galneva.
Speaking of the folk dances in Sri Lanka, we were able to notice several notable characteristics such as simplicity, the group collaboration, using of props, enjoyment of recital of poems, and in fact, the building blocks of rural folk dancing implies the social connection between the villagers, where the dancing acts too include several episodes of interaction among them.
Here we see another elephant of the Sri Maha Pattini Devale procession this evening, and this elephant is Manike, belonging to Mr. H.R. Nishanka of Kegol.
In contrast to the male Savaran dances that we have seen all along, now we see a female troupe of Savarang dancers representing the Sarasavi Arts Academy from Molagada. As these ladies take the streets of Kandy with so much elegance and personality, paying no heed to their fragile souls, we can see another elephant coming into sight.
Here we see the elephant Manike, belonging to Mr. Danuka Kempitiya of Kilpani in Kegol. When speaking about the Kempitiya family, it always must be admired about the number of elephants which they own who took part in the Kandy Esala Perahera for many years. But unfortunately, they are only left with this elephant Manike, who is quite a senior elephant in among our domestic elephant population in Sri Lanka.
Following Manike, we see another female troupe of Kandian dancers.
This dance act can be identified as the female counterpart of the Nayandi dance, and at some instances it's also known as the Payimpat Natuma or the Payimpat dance, or even the Shirshabarana Natuma or the Shirshabarana dance, because of the headgear that is worn. Where in fact all of us know that the West dancing act can only be performed by males, and it's not easy to perform the West dance as one must be coronated with the West Bandime Mangalya. But females are actually not left apart. So the dance which they are coronated from is the Payimpat Mangalya, where they are placed with the Shirshabarana headgear, permitting them to dance this particular dance act.
Indeed, Nilesh, both these dance acts are given more or less the same prominence when it comes to how they are coronated. And this troupe of beautiful West dancers represent the Ketumati Dance Academy from Murtalava.
Goddess Pattini is famed as the goddess of chastity and is still considered as the most popular deity among Sri Lankans, despite being a goddess of South Indian origin. The virtues of Goddess Pattini are narrated in a Tamil epic named Shilpadipakaram, which was written in the 2nd century, along with several other poetic literature that was written in Sri Lanka during the 18th and 19th century.
The cult of goddess Pattini narrates many amusing stories which are all part of the legend of this great goddess. One of the most interesting out of such legends is her birth story, which is popular as Sat Pattini, where it reveals 7 different ways in which she had been born.
Styling herself to the rhythm that is performed right in front of her, here we see the beautiful elephant Manike belonging to Mrs. Shriyani Gunawardana of Dangobita. In fact, Manike is an elephant who can be identified even from a very far distance because of her unique moves that can be seen in a Perahera. And did you know, Chamoda, that Manike has been taking part in the procession of goddess Pattini for nearly a period of 10 years?
Is that so? She might be very, very proud to take this place for more than 10 years. And I think that enthusiasm is shown in how she takes the streets.
In fact, this particular elephant Manike is recognized as one of the most friendly elephants who are living in Sri Lanka because she is attracted by many tourists and locals alike. Here we see the pinnacle of the Sri Maha Pattini Devale Perahera, and this is the moment where we will see the godly ornaments of goddess Pattini being carried, escorted by the troupe of West dancers that are being led by the veteran artist, the generational artist Mithun Bandara of the Mithun Bandara Aesthetic Academy of Watapuduwa.
Goddess Pattini is much popular among Sri Lankans due to her power in curing diseases among women and small children. This is the same reason many of the Sri Lankan low country healing rituals, including the Gam Maduwa, Devol Maduwa and Pahan Maduwa, have accepted the protagonist deity as Goddess Pattini. The popularity of these ceremonies can only be agreed by an eyewitness, where thousands of devotees spend an entire sleepless night in the ritual ground to experience and worship this miraculous power of healing. And in the casket, we can see a very small statue of Goddess Pattini attached to it.
The shrine devoted to goddess Pattini in Kandy is a simple, small, rectangular building on the usual stone platform. It consists of 4 compartments, including a traditional Kandyan roof adorns, golden entrance to the chamber, and charming elegance that makes this Devale as simple but a beautiful shrine that is home to many devotees who flock to this Kandyan shrine to worship goddess Pattini. Preceded by the chief trustee of the Sri Maha Pattini Devale in Kandy, this evening the godly ornaments of goddess Pattini shall be carried by the elephant Mangala belonging to Mr. Udaragala Patti of Giriyulla. Mangala will be accompanied by the elephant Kanchana, also belonging to Mr. Udaragala Patti, and the elephant Parami belonging to Mr. Samantha Vijayamanna of Medagoda.
Now we see the majestic sight of the casket of the requilleries of goddess Pattini being carried with the veneration of the charmer and the offerings of flowers from either sides.
Now we see the second troop of West dancers who are being led by Mr. Chandana K. Jayaratna of the Chandana Aesthetic Academy of Matali. And this particular troop of West dancers are being tasked with escorting the way for the Basnayaka Nilame of the Sri Maha Pattini Devale in Kandy. And also it has to be mentioned that this will be the last dance item that we will be seeing in this evening's Perahera. The West dance consists of several interesting episodes, and this is one such episode known as the Naru Matraya, where the dancers will be holding each side of the loincloth known as the Naruva to perform to the beat of the Gataberera.
West dance is a dance performance which is used in most of the ceremonial occasions across the island. But it is in the Kandy Esala Perahera that we see all the variations associated with this dance.
This evening in the first Randoli Perahera, we will be seeing the Basnayaka Nilame of the Sri Maha Pattini Devale in Kandy. Hemantha Bandara Herath, walking with great pride in this evening's Perahera, representing the Sri Maha Pattini Devale. In fact, Basnayaka Nilame Hemantha Bandara Herath is the Basnayaka Nilame of the Sri Maha Pattini Devale in Kandy, the Sri Maha Pattini Devale in Hanguranketa, and also the Vilbava Pattini Devale in Kurunagala.
as the Basnayaka Nilame of the Sri Maha Pattini Devale take on the streets, we can see the elegance, the majesty created around him, with the guards lining the streets and the pearl umbrella held ahead of his head to represent that royal decree or the protection that is given to the Basnayaka Nilame.
This would be the last segment or the last site that we'll be witnessing in the first Randoli Perahera, giving us a lot more hope about the next 4 days where the Randoli Perahera will get much more extravagant. The speciality of the Randoli Perahera is that we will be seeing the 4 Randoli or the 4 palanquins representing the 4 Devalas walking behind the requilaries. So we see the palanquins of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devale, Vishnu Devale, Kataragama Devale and Pattini Devale.
And what you saw was the conclusion of the first Randoli Perahera of the Esala Perahera Festival 2024. Let there be timely rains that will bring life-giving waters to our fields and ensure a bountiful harvest. May our country prosper. Dalada Maligawa.